This line ends up passing within 1.3 kilometers of the Mount Carmel Center, better known as the site of the Waco siege. On this site, 76 people died on April 19, 1993, when their compound was burned after a 51-day standoff with the authorities. Waco is noteworthy along this CERN line because it is situated such that its precise location defines the center of the North American circle by being at an exact golden ratio point along the circle's radius, which is 2,160 nautical miles, or precisely 1/10 of the Earth's circumference. Creating an analog 2,160 nautical mile circle on the center of the Large Hadron Collider defines a bisector between North America and Europe. This continental bisector intersects with another great circle that runs down the east coast of South America and through the deepest part of O'Higgins San Martin Lake, which is the deepest in South America and the 5th deepest in the world. The other point defining this great circle is Challenger Deep, the deepest spot on Earth. Notice how it also passes very close to CERN. Taking a closer look at the Large Hadron Collider for a moment, we lay out a circle of 86,400 foot circumference centered on the Large Hadron Collider, and see that it passes through all 4 of the collision points along the accelerator where the massive detectors are located. We define a vesica Pisces by laying out the same sized circle passing through the center of the LHC and aligned with our Great Pyramid to Waco, Texas line. This geometry syncs up with a larger circle that nestles between the vesica Pisces and the Challenger Deep line we defined before looking closer at CERN. This circle has an exact circumference of 216 kilometers, which is continuing the fractal pattern from the continent-sized circles and the Large Hadron Collider circumference. To be clear, the circle is depicted as being exactly tangent to the line, but there's actually a few kilometers of play with this particular alignment. While the Challenger Deep end is anchored by a precise Wikipedia point, the O'Higgins San Martin end is a deep area and is not a point. The number 216 resonates across both terrestrial and celestial realms. The Earth's circumference, for example, is 21,600 nautical miles. We see that the Sun is 864,000 miles in diameter, and the Moon is 2,160 miles across. 864 is a multiple of 216. There are also 86,400 seconds in a day, reflecting the 2016 resonance into the temporal. Now, many have commented on how CERN's logo seems to contain 3 sixes. Perhaps that is true given that 6 times 6 times 6 equals 216. Following through, we see that a vesica Pisces of sorts is left once the 6's are taken away. Potent symbology, 666 coming from the vesica Pisces, considering that 666 is well known as the number of man. Again, extreme geography is playing into the mix, with Mont Blanc, the highest peak in Europe, being 7 kilometers from our world deep line. Zooming out, we can see how Europe and Africa follow our alignments, and how the Challenger Deep line almost exactly separates Europe and Africa at the Strait of Gibraltar. The line passes within 4 kilometers of the African Pillar of Hercules. The intersection of the CERN/North America Vesica Pisces bisector and the Challenger Deep line define a precise location on the Earth from which we'll lay out the rest of the geometry in this video. The coastline of South America follows 3 great circles, each having a circumference of 21,600 nautical miles, equal to that of the Earth. These three great circles form a wedge that is 1/8 of the world's circumference by 1/4 of the Earth's circumference. Notice how this lays out an equator along the north edge and a pole at the south apex. Bisect the wedge and define another perpendicular pole. Sweep out a line about this pole to the Ahu Akivi Moe on Easter Island. These 7 statues face sunset on each equinox and are the only astronomically precise ancient feature on the island. This alignment passes through the southern tip of South America and precisely past Cape Horn, the most southerly spot in South America. We'll sweep out another line around our east pole to the region where the circle rounds into the straight edge of Chile's east coast, thus completing a box around the top of South America. Now divide the top edge into a golden ratio, and by adding a circle, we see that the box is actually a golden rectangle in some sense. Copying this circle down will create another golden section line. Sweeping out from the end of this to exactly 45 degrees, or 1/8 of 360 degrees, we see that the west coast of South America is aligned, and that we have another fractal of 216. Expanding this pattern implies a Fibonacci spiral. One final line that creates another golden ratio division provides the backbone on which the North and South America connector sits. Adding back in our North America circle with its CERN to Waco bisector, we see that this phi connector comes within 10.4 kilometers of where the CERN to Waco line intersects the circle.
So one last line, if you recall the line we just drew connecting North America to South America at the phi division of the upper portion of South America. If you do one perpendicular to that, it goes right through the mouth of the Amazon and continues on to Stonehenge within 13.2 kilometers. So here we have Easter Island and Stonehenge playing a role in laying out, or however you want to put it, the South American continent. And it just, you know, from what I've seen in the research, this kind of thing, it just goes on and on and on. And so if you're interested, perhaps consider going to bedrockgeometry.com and signing up for the newsletter. And yeah, and I'll fire you some stuff, some secret stuff. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it.
Yep. You were a bit sceptical in your presentation about ley lines.
Yeah.
Because they don't work on the curvature of the Earth. So would they work on a flat plane, and have you doubted what you were doing?
I think they would. I think you should. I think it's the word ley line that's the problem with it's the terminology, because everybody looks at them in very, very different ways. And I think if it was a perfect lay, then I think if it was flat, then it would actually work a lot better than the curvature of the Earth. Now, the big one that often gets talked about is the Michael Lay, which runs from Hopton-on-Sea in Norfolk all the way down to the Cornish coast. Now, if you see it on a map, it's flat. Fine, but if you put the curvature of the Earth in there, it doesn't work. It's supposed to be the summer solstice sunrise, and that's fine, but it's never going to be a flat line. It's always going to be curved. which then chucks out the theory to a certain point, which is why I don't like the term ley line for anything. You know, to me, if you call it a holy line, lays to me, if it's as a summer solstice sunrise, then to me there's not the dowsable energy there. You can pick it up where it is, but there's no real dowsable energy there. But with what I would call a holy line, you're actually picking up a lot of human emotional stuff and earth energy problems within it. Flat Earth works a lot better than a curved Earth. Definitely.
Just confirmed his theory.
Have you doubted whether we live on
a disc, a flat Earth? No, I never have. But I'm going to have to. Is it flat Earth or not? Yeah, where's my pendulum gone? Somebody got my I put it in my back pocket. Okay. Okay, so, do we live on a flat Earth? Yes, we do. Yeah.
At the heart of science is an essential balance between two seemingly contradictory attitudes: an openness to new ideas, no matter how bizarre or counterintuitive, and the most ruthlessly skeptical scrutiny of all ideas, old and new. This is how deep truths are winnowed from deep nonsense. The collective enterprise of creative thinking and skeptical thinking, working together, keeps the field on track. Those two seemingly contradictory attitudes are, though, in some tension. Consider this claim: as I walk along, time, as measured by my wristwatch or my aging process, slows down. Also, I shrink in the direction of motion. Also, I get more massive. Who has ever witnessed such a thing? It's easy to dismiss it out of hand. Here's another. Matter and antimatter are all the time, throughout the universe, being created from nothing. Here's a third. Once in a very great while, your car will spontaneously ooze through the brick wall of your garage and be found the next morning on the street. They're all absurd. But the first is a statement of special relativity, and the other two are consequences of quantum mechanics, vacuum fluctuations, and barrier tunneling, they're called. Like it or not, that's the way the world is. If you insist it's ridiculous, you'll be forever closed to some of the major findings on the rules that govern the universe. If you're only skeptical, then no new ideas make it through to you. You never can learn anything. You become a crotchety misanthrope, convinced that nonsense is ruling the world. There is, of course, much data to support you. Since major discoveries at the borderlines of science are rare, experience will tend to confirm your grumpiness. But every now and then, a new idea turns out to be on the mark, valid, and wonderful. If you're too resolutely and uncompromisingly skeptical, you're going to miss or resent the transforming discoveries in science. And either way, you will be obstructing understanding and progress. Mere skepticism is not enough. At the same time, science requires the most vigorous and uncompromising skepticism, because the vast majority of ideas are simply wrong, and the only way to winnow the wheat from the chaff is by critical experiment and analysis. If you're open to the point of gullibility and have not a microgram of skeptical sense in you, then you cannot distinguish the promising ideas from the worthless ones. Uncritically accepting every proffered notion, idea, and hypothesis is tantamount to knowing nothing. Ideas contradict one another. Only through skeptical scrutiny can we decide among them. Some ideas really are better than others. The judicious mix of these two modes of thought is central to the success of science. Good scientists do both. On their own, talking to themselves, they churn up many new ideas and criticize them systematically. Most of the ideas never make it to the outside world. Only those that pass a rigorous self-filtration make it out to be criticized by the rest of the scientific community. Because of this dogged mutual criticism and self-criticism, and the proper reliance on experiment as the arbiter between contending hypotheses, many scientists tend to be diffident about describing their own sense of wonder at the dawning of a wild surmise. This is a pity, because these rare exultant moments demystify and humanize the scientific endeavor. No one can be entirely open or completely skeptical. We all must draw the line somewhere. An ancient Chinese proverb advises, better to be too credulous than too skeptical. But this is from an extremely conservative society in which stability was much more prized than freedom, and where the rulers had a powerful vested interest in not being challenged. Most scientists, I believe, would say better to be too skeptical than too credulous. But neither is easy. Responsible, thoroughgoing, rigorous skepticism requires a hard-nosed habit of thought that takes practice and training to master. Credulity, I think a better word here is openness or wonder, does not come easily either. If we really are to be open to counterintuitive ideas in physics or social organization or anything else, we must grasp those ideas. It means nothing to be open to a proposition we don't understand. Both skepticism and wonder are skills that need honing and practice. Their harmonious marriage within the mind of every school child ought to be a principal goal of public education. I'd love to see such domestic felicity portrayed in the media, television especially. A community of people really working the mix, full of wonder, generously open to every notion, dismissing nothing except for good reason, but at the same time in a second nature, demanding stringent standards of evidence, and these standards applied with at least as much rigor to what they hold dear as to what they are tempted to reject with impunity. Thanks for watching.
Every cell of each plant and animal contains genetic information coded onto the DNA molecules.